In the 5 or so years that I've been working with Dara Okani, for the first sort of 3 or 4 years, all he ever talked about was a star student of his that was, he just was an A+ student. And in the last year or so, he's been now telling me that he's kind of almost become a star coach, almost to Dara. It's the coaching relationship has shifted, and the student has almost become the master. Turlough McHugh, welcome. Is that an accurate representation of your
Yeah.
coaching relationship
Uh,
with Dara?
yeah, something like that. I'm not sure if I was a star student for very long, um, but yeah, thanks for the opportunity to
Yeah,
have
yeah,
me on
and
here.
I'm curious because he has genuinely been telling me that you've turned into something of a very very good coach. I'm in the process of my personal coaching was always just been doing the books with Dara, and I've never really studied much on my own. I am trying to change that in 2024. I've got a personal goal to review 365 hands in the year. Doing pretty well on that so far. I'm well ahead of schedule. What would your advice be to someone like myself who's probably not very used to studying on my own? I've always kind of relied on an authority figure like Dara to tell me whether I'm doing something wrong or right. It's a bit nerve-wracking sometimes having to study on my own and not always be 100% right about what I'm doing.
Um, yeah, well, you could get a coach,
Yeah.
or you can, yeah, I think reviewing hands is always a good way, and try and make it interesting for yourself rather than just always reviewing a hand, looking at the answer, moving to the next one. Um, maybe the way I review hands is that I take notes on the hands, like my opinion on it, before I look at any results or anything like that, and then I'll practice the spot. Then I'll go back and see and write like what I think about the spot.
Mm.
Um, okay, you can just scrap that out. Um,
No, no,
so
no. That's actually really good because the, I've actually been doing something where I don't just look at the spot. I'll look at, like, for example, the thing we're looking at now, Jack Queen suited, and I'll before I look at whether, say, GTO Wizard will say whether this is an open, a call, or whatever, I will out loud say to myself, right, my raises would be this, my calls would be this, my opens would be this. I try and make sure, uh, I try and work out what I think the correct answer is first before I look at the actually GTO approved line. And I found that's a good way of testing what I know and also showing me what I don't know. So I actually think that's a good way to do it.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, exactly, yeah.
shall we? We'll jump into the hand. This first one, I don't know how many we're going to do, but let's start with this one. And this this is the hand is a good example of I used something that I've learned with Dara to good effect and then just butchered it towards the end of the river and misapplied everything perhaps. This is a $55 tournament on Party Poker. It's one of their big phase tournaments that they've currently got running. So we've got an undergun open, a cutoff flat, and so I'm actually going to look at this from in a GTO Wizard sim. This is going to be a multi-way pot, but it stops being a multi-way pot very, very quickly. Um, first of all, like I just defend there. Would you do anything different other than call in this spot? Do you think this is a good squeeze candidate?
Um, Not bad. You're a little bit shallow though. I tend to be at 60. I tend to I'd use like a 12 big blind squeeze. So maybe hands like Queen Nine suited, King Nine suited, just a little bit worse than Queen Jack suited because
Right.
these guys have Queen Nine suited, Queen 10 suited, and we can keep those dominated. We dominate those hands and we can keep them in.
Mm. Excellent. Um, so this is the flop that we get. Um, so the first thing that happens is, I mean, this strikes me as 100%, not 100% check because multi-way is slightly different. But so the under the gun player opens, and I I know that multi-way strategy plays differently to what a heads up pot in GTO Wizard will play like. But because the next player gets out of the way, I decided to, for the review purposes, I decided to treat this very much like it was a heads up pot. With perhaps the caveat that I'm expecting the under the gun player to be a little bit tighter than what he would normally continuation bet with. Would you agree with that assessment? How to study this hand?
Yeah, this is I'm not very good at three-way spots, but this is so let's take a look at UTG's range. He's got how does the trash how does the bottom of his range connect with this board? So he may have king 10 offsuit, he may have the queen jack suit, or queen 10 suited. So he's quite a lot of 10x here.
Hmm.
He has ace 10 offsuit, that's the bottom of his ace x opening range.
Yeah.
The offsuit ace x opening range. So his sizing makes sense. And he can have some bets on this board, so I think it's fine. Yeah, and your hand, the double backdoor, I think is a continue. Whether you want to go with check raise or check call. I think both.
I well, I went with check raise. I felt I know from working with Dara that the double backdoor in a situation like this is a very good candidate to check raise. To go along with, I'd probably guess, say like my king tens, my ace tens. I'm probably not going to have many overpairs here, but and my pocket fours and my pocket sevens and my 10-7 suited is probably a hand that's in this range. 7-4 suited would be in the range too, I guess. Because obviously we can hit a straight draw on the turn. We can hit a flush draw on the turn. We can hit a straight and flush draw on the turn. And I imagine my pair outs are pretty good some of the time. So I went for the check raise. Would you go with the check raise more than the call?
Yeah, I think it's good. You've nice disguised queen X on turns. You've got loads of and you can actually find bluffs on like on an eighth turn and stuff like that, where a
Mm.
lot of players will just check raise their 5-6s and they won't be able to find bluffs. So yeah, really, really nice. The one thing I would say is that, well, it depends on how much you want to check raise. Do you want to check raise one pairs here in this spot?
Um, that's a great question because when you and I are talking and I've got my theoretical head on, yes. In game, I'm probably a little bit more sheepish with hands like that at this stack depth. So my theoretical answer would probably be yes. In reality, I'm probably not as balanced as I'm saying I am here. It's probably more the two pairs and the sets that I'm check raising for value.
I think that's a good strategy to have just check raise kind of two pairs and sets here when he bets half pot, three-way.
Yeah.
So the only thing I would say about this is that your size is quite small,
Mhm.
because you have a lot of bluffs in your range and you're representing two pair plus and
Mhm.
sets. So you want to be quite polar. You're not merged and you're using a mergey size. So you're saying like I
Right.
want to check raise 10 jack suited and stuff when you're not. So maybe a check raise to like 14, 15 big blinds would be more in line.
Yeah. Do you know what I think
Um
I do? Do you know what I think I do in spots like this? I think I'm trying to give myself more maneuverability on later streets so that I think I want to be able to bet bigger on the turn. So I leave some behind so I can make more of an overbet type of bet on a turn and river. I don't why I want to do that. I don't know, but I think that's why I go for the slightly smaller bet just to set up a slightly bigger bet and still have some leeway. Does that
well,
make any
that's
sense
fine.
at all?
Are you using the small size with 10-7 and 7-4? Or would you go
Do
with
you know, I'm
table?
probably using a small size with the sets, and I'm probably using a bigger size with the 7-4 and the 10-7 just because it's a more vulnerable hand. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's probably a leak I've got there.
yeah, that's okay. It's just splitting your range is very can create a lot of problems. Last week I was in, or 2 weeks ago, I think I was in Galway, and the man to my right he was 4x in pocket aces, he was 3x in King Jack O, he was 2.5x opening size to with 7-8 suited.
Right.
And what he's effectively doing is he's splitting his range and he's sizing his hand. And you're saying here that you're sizing your hand
Mhm.
in this spot, and it becomes very exploitable.
Yeah.
And we all know the obvious exploits pre-flop, and on the flop as well. There's obvious exploits again. So just be careful, I think, about having splitting your sizes so early on,
Mm.
because it can become very exploitable.
So just looking at GTO Wizard, the sort of hands that check raise um, are the two pairs. Yeah, 7-4. A hand like pocket jacks, which realistically would never be in my actual range, if I'm being honest. I definitely would have squeezed with pocket jacks pre-flop. My own hand is a check raise all the time when it is played. It's actually a really good squeeze candidate pre-flop, which is why it's not in there all the time.
Ah, right, right,
Um,
okay.
Funnily enough, the bet size is pretty much bang on. That was, in fact, I think, I was 10.04. This is 10.05. So thank God no one put me into a fair play check on GTO. It almost looks like I'm following it RTA style. But uh, my opponent calls. And you alluded to it earlier, but I've pretty much got one of the best possible
Yeah.
cards to fire a second barrel. I mean, I think only a 9 would have been better for me, a 9 of diamonds. But now I've got the flush draw, the gut shot, and still some sort of equity with a potential pair there. So as played, I mean, this is always a bet, right? Obviously, I mean, the sizing you can. Um, I'm probably just thinking I just want the sizing to be quite big because obviously he's now obviously got some sort of made hand or weak draw, and he's got rid of the middle of his range, the nothing portion of his range. Sorry, and so I definitely wanted to go big, but I presume this is 100% second barrel, but is the bet sizing something we discuss here?
Um, no, I think this player is really good. Yeah, the turn. I try not to think about, oh, is the turn a good card for my hand, and more like, is the turn a good card for your range? And
Yeah,
the turn
yeah,
is a very good card for your range. You have 9-6 suited to some extent. You have the Jack 9 suited that you're check raising. You've also got the 5-6 suited. You also
yep,
turn a bunch of pair plus open enders. So this is an extremely good card for your range, and I think you can probably just range bet the turn
yeah.
and use like, yeah, about a half pot size. So I think this is really, really good strategy here.
Yeah, and you pretty much nailed it. It was pretty much 100% bet. Um, the entire range, as you mentioned, we've got all this stuff in the middle of the deck that hits really hard here. My specific hand, yeah, there's a mix of bet sizes. Um, yeah, so it's if we don't check raise the flop and then give up on a turn like this is all part of the plan. So um, and then he calls. So what are you thinking about the under the gun player at this point? He's led into and called the check raise on the flop on a 10 high flop. He's not gone away on the turn. Um, in game, I was thinking he had at least a 10. But yeah, what's your thoughts on his range at this point?
Um, yeah, I think he's going to have a lot of 10x and over pairs. He's also going to have some of the hands we alluded to, the 8-9s.
Mhm.
He's going to have some 7-8 suited. But some of these sets and two pairs that he turns may shove the turn
Yeah,
over this
yeah,
bet. So
it's a very wet turn.
not
Yeah,
overly worried. Yeah, exactly. A lot of players will just shove this, so I'm not overly worried about sets and two pairs, but he will have definitely a pocket tens here at some frequency at least. And yeah, so it's definitely a better turn for you, in
yeah.
my opinion. Um, yeah.
And just to corroborate that, that's his. I mean, he's calling with all the overpairs here. I think a lot of people would think that an overpair would be raising on a turn like this, but it's one of those you're way ahead or way behind spots for the overpairs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so at this point, I'm feeling like an absolute GTO genius. But then, um, so who does this card help, in your opinion?
Well, given the fact that you don't have ace 10 in your range on the flop, you say, that you
Pretty
don't,
much, yeah, yeah.
you're only checking two pairs and sets. then it's a better card for villain. He has the ace seven of diamonds type hands. He has the ace four of diamonds type hands. So he rivers more two pairs, and he also rivers a set sometimes. So it's not an amazing card for you.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you said that because in game I felt very conflicted. I was trying to
Well,
work
this
out.
is this is one of the worst cards in the deck, and like not for your hand. It's for your range. This is not a
Yeah.
good card for your range at all.
Yeah.
It
I
improves
was in
when you're
game. I
in
was trying to
position.
work out. I was trying to work out what aces I could actually represent here, and the only one I could think of would be like an ace two of diamonds, ace three of diamonds sort of thing, where I went for the double backdoor bluff in line, and then get there on the river. But even then, I'm not too sure I'd play a weaker ace aggressively on the river. So what's your strategy now at this point on the river? Because obviously I've kind of put myself in a situation where I shove or give up. Right?
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
which way would you go?
Um, I would give up this one, and I would start bluffing hands like maybe six seven suited, and your jack queen. If you have jack queen of diamonds, you have jack queen of hearts and spades.
Mhm.
So blocking diamonds isn't ideal because
Yeah.
part of villains in positions folding range will be a hand like Jack Queen of Diamonds, King Jack of
Mm,
Diamonds, that type of thing. So our Ace Jack of Diamonds, some hands that he's floated the flop with.
mm,
So you block his folds. Although you don't block yeah, you block his folds for the most part. And you have to like let's say MDF, like roughly, like if you're playing an all in here on the river,
mhm.
you need to bluff about 30% of your range. And
Yeah.
you've plenty of bluffs here, I think. You have all the other Jack Queens to use.
That's
Um,
very interesting. Yeah, I also didn't like the fact that I mean, again, I know from working with Dara that it's bluffing a missed straight draw is usually a lot better idea than bluffing a missed flush
yeah.
draw, because with the straight draw, what tends to, your two cards tend to be like the kickers of what would make a good top pair, and so on and so forth. So I'm really glad you said give up, because
Yeah.
that's kind of what I did.
You
Just
do unblock the 10 Jack suited and Queen 10 suited that will fold, which
Mhm.
is kind of nice, but yeah.
you're 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 almost psychic because you about what you're going to see. But yeah, so um, this is what GTO Wizard would do in this instance. Queen Jack suited doesn't bluff very often, and as you mentioned, and look, it never bluffs with my specific combination of Queen Jack suited. You're right. You have nailed it when you said the other combinations of Queen Jack suited should bluff here. Um, and then let's just see what the bluffs are. Yeah, so 5-3 suited. Um,
7 6 suited as well.
yeah,
Um,
7-6 suited. That's yeah, that's really interesting. And then what happened in real life is I checked, and he actually had Jack 10 off. Um,
okay, nice.
yeah, which might have actually folded to a shove.
Yeah, he got you.
And then yeah, let's just see what happens in GTO world when Jackson off would call. So yeah. Oh, well, so that's a relief, because I actually this was a hand that I felt that I messed up. I thought if I was commit, making such a committing line on both flop and turn, I kind of felt like maybe I missed out on an opportunity to go for it. And I also struggled to put him on many aces. I mean, in this GTO Wizard um sim, like he's got like ace jack, for example.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fair.
So no, that's a relief. I thought I missed out on an opportunity to go for a bluff because I was struggling to put him on so many aces. So that's a relief. It's nice to know that you are supposed to give up some of the time. I often think that when there's 60 blinds in the middle, you shouldn't be giving up that much.
Yeah, again, it's kind of like on the river, is this a range bet on the river? And the answer is just no. It's you don't get to range bet this river because it's not a good card for you. So you're gonna have to have a check in range, and this is one of the hands that's gonna have to go into that check in range.
What would have been a good card for me to bluff this river? With
Well,
the hand that
let's talk about your check raising range. What's a 9? That would be a good card, wouldn't it?
Yep.
Would it be a good card for your range of 9? Yeah, somewhat. No, then again, all your 2 pairs are kind of screwed. A 2 would be probably a good card for your range.
Mm-hmm.
We can check out the different river cards and look at the frequency, the overall bet frequency on 2,
This
3.
was this was the check raising range going back to the river. Yeah, let's shoot ahead to the
Maybe a 9. There's a lot of small betting on the 9.
oh no, the GTO Wizard doesn't do flop report. Let's stick a 9 of spades out there. And yeah, you're absolutely right. So a 9 would have been a oh no, a 9 would have been a straight. We've got
That's the notes, yeah.
sorry. Let me go down there. So something like I don't know, like a
Maybe a 2 is the overall bet frequency on a 2. Yeah, we've almost
yeah,
arranged bet on a 2. And that's just because the board has just run out really good for us overall.
yeah, yeah. The
Uh,
2 is a complete blank, obviously. So we had a good strong range on the turn. So the 2 on the very good, very good. So I managed to get away with playing the hand in a way that GTO Wizard would have played the hand. Doesn't necessarily mean that I played it right for the right reasons. So based on the analysis that I've given around, what would you work on if you were me in my homework? Like what drills would you set up, for example? What spots would you have me look at in the future to sort of really fine tune this so I'm a little bit more confident in spots like this?
I think you kind of nailed it here. Like you recognize the correct bluffs to use on the flop. You recognize the eight's a really good card for your range, and you went and bet, and you recognize that the ace isn't a
Hmm.
hand, isn't the card you want to be super aggressive on, and you don't just get to bluff everything when the ace comes down. And you gave up with a correct combo to give up with. So I think
Yeah.
you played the hands like really well. And yeah, maybe just the size of your check raise to not split on the
Yeah.
flop. Just like choose one size. Always like say like, what does 10-7? Because that's like the purest of pure check raises. What does 10-7 want to check raise?
Hmm.
And then use that size and just don't use any other sizings. And and then that's just a good way. You won't get exploited by good players that way.
Yeah, bet sizing definitely big leak of mine. Something it's something that I've improved dramatically, but it's only because it's probably my weakest area.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, I think your sizing on the turn is perfect. On the flush draw turn, just going that half pot, putting a lot of pressure on in positions range.
mm, mm.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Turlough. That's been very, very interesting. That's been very, very useful. Um, and yeah, I mean, if people want to know more about you, if people want to hire you as a coach, where can they find you?
Well, you can email me on at macq16@hotmail.com, and yeah, we can go from there. We can start off with a trial where I where you send me, like, if you were to get coaching, you'd send me maybe a half an hour recording of you play,
Mm.
and we find something that maybe you're not sure about, and then in the try lesson, we schedule a lesson, and we'll do a lesson on that topic. Do a warm up to the topic, an introduction to the topic, a presentation on the topic, and we'll practice the topic as well.
Mm. That's good because I like the video and somebody playing because I think sometimes a lot of people struggle with knowing what to to work on. Some people know they've got leaks, but they don't know what their leaks are. So it's good to have an independent expert eye on those sort of things.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. It's always good to have a second eye on anything.
Well, Turlough McHugh, thank you very much.
Yeah, cheers, Barry. Thanks.